From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the news at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Anne Waodo.
Hello and welcome. Tonight, 4 days after its rollout, President Bola Tinubu directs suspension of the cashless payment system at airports, cites hardship faced by travelers. Inspector General of Police Olatunji Disu inaugurates a committee to oversee the implementation of state policing, declaring that there will be no sacred cow under his leadership. Civil society organizations and election observers call on the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to closely monitor campaign funds used by political parties. And Iranian authorities postponed the funeral ceremony for the late Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei amid ongoing heavy strikes by U.S. and Israeli forces.
On business, the Senate supports stricter CBN supervision of fintechs, calls for tougher action against Ponzi schemes.
On sports news tonight, African Football Governing Body CAF is set to provide clarification on the host country and schedule for the 2026 Women's Cup of Nations within the next 48 hours.
And from the nation's capital, Attorney General of the Federation assumes responsibility for the trial of his predecessor, Abubakar Malami, and his son, over charges related to terrorism financing and illegal possession of firearms.
We begin tonight with a directive from President Bola Tinubu to the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo, to suspend the cashless policy and the cashless system at the nation's federal airport. This was one of the resolutions reached at this week's Federal Executive Council meeting, which took place at the State House in Abuja. President Tinubu also presented a memo for the establishment of a grid asset management company aimed at strengthening the transmission component of Nigeria's electricity value chain. Our State House correspondent Larry Lasisi reports.
President Bola Tinubu arriving for the Federal Executive Council meeting. In attendance is the Vice President, Cabinet Ministers, government officials and aides to the President. The first item attended to is the swearing-in of the Inspector General of Police, 6 commissioners of the Revenue, Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission, and 2 commissioners from the Federal Civil Service Commission. The Inspector General of Police is the first to take his oath of office. Do solemnly swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the flag of Nigeria, and that I will devote myself to the service and well-being of the people of Nigeria. So help me God. It's then the turn of the commissioners. Do solemnly swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to As the meeting then proceeds into a closed session, the Inspector General of Police steps outside and allays fears regarding a planned protest in Abuja in relation to the conflict between Iran and the United States.
That is what we call the intelligence policing. Our ears are to the ground. We know we have groups of people, different kinds of Islamic sects in Nigeria. We have those who pay allegiance to this eastern part of the world as well. So we know if anything happens in the eastern part of the world, the repercussion will come to us. So we are putting all necessary actions. You can see policemen on patrol. And most importantly, we are talking to them to ensure that they do not take laws and orders into their hands.
When the ministers emerge from the FEC meeting, they reel out the resolutions reached. The first is the suspension of the cashless payment system at federal airports.
Mr. President, out of empathy, directed today that we should suspend the present system because it creates a lot of gridlock, and Nigerians are suffering as a result of it. Mr. President therefore directed me that we should go back to the drawing board. We should go back to status quo, suspend the present system.
Another resolution is the reinstatement of the National Commission for Mass Literacy, Adult and Non-Formal Education to full commission status.
Today we have over 56 million Nigerians that are illiterate. We can't continue to have this high number of citizens that are illiterate. So the commission deploys a lot of various ways to educate people across the country, predominantly in the rural area, using radio, TV, public advocacy, and even they also have their schools.
A memo from the president is also considered.
The president has seen that where the problem is mainly in our quest to solve the power problem is largely in the transmitting section, and therefore Mr. President came with a bill mulling the idea of setting up what is called the Grid Asset Management Company.
The council also approved a memo ensuring the continuation of free antiretroviral drugs for HIV/AIDS treatment in Nigeria. From the State House, Lanre Lasese, Channels Television News.
The Inspector General of Police, Olatunji Disu, has inaugurated an 8-member committee to oversee the implementation of state police as he rolls out his vision for the Nigeria Police Force following his confirmation as the 23rd Indigenous IGP. Speaking in Abuja at his first formal engagement with strategic senior police officers, Mr. Disu says that there is need to tackle evolving security threats through innovative policing like community policing and the establishment of state police. The 8-member committee, headed by Professor Olu Ogunshaki, is expected to deliver its report within 4 weeks.
The conference hall of the Goodluck Jonathan Peacekeeping Center is filled to capacity as senior police officers converge for a strategic meeting with the Inspector General of Police. The conference begins with the Inspector General of Police outlining his vision for the force.
Under this leadership, there will be no sacred cows. Rank, seniority, or position will offer no protection. Officers found culpable will face swift and appropriate disciplinary actions, including dismissal, prosecution where applicable. This administration will act firmly, fairly, and transparently to deter misconduct, reinforce discipline, and restore public trust in the Nigerian police.
With the 2027 general elections around the corner, the responsibility of the force is highlighted.
As we approach the 2027 general elections, our responsibilities to the nation becomes both heightened and non-negotiable. The credibility of the electoral process, the stability of our democracy, and the confidence of the Nigerian people will depend largely on the conduct of the Nigerian police force as the lead agency in the election security management.
Issues of community policing and state police is brought to the front burner.
Across the nation, we continue to confront evolving security challenges. This requires innovative thinking, strategic collaboration, and a willingness to explore reform that will enhance our capability. This committee on state police we are inaugurating today has a critical responsibility. Your work will help shape the framework through which state policing may operate in Nigeria in a manner that strengthens rather than fragments our national security system. In carrying out this assignment, your deliberations must be guided by professionalism, objectivity, and a clear appreciation of the unique complexity of policing in a diverse nation like our own.
Matching words with action, an 8-member implementation committee on state police is inaugurated with a mandate to deliver their reports within 4 weeks. The State Police Initiative, championed by President Bola Tinubu's administration, is part of a broader security sector reforms aimed at decentralizing policing powers to enhance the nation's internal security.
To party politics now, where more new state chairmen have emerged from the All Progressives Congress in the southeastern region. As we bring you reports of the state congresses of the party in Abia, Imo, Anambra, where members agreed to work in unity and progress as the race to the 2027 general elections heats up.
In Abia, Honorable Chijioke Chukwu emerged as the consensus chairman of the party. At its Congress held in Umuahia, all the positions returned through consensus mandate. Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Benjamin Kalu, while reacting to the Congress, eulogized President Tinubu for insisting the use of harmonization and consensus, while the state APC chairman-elect spoke to the press.
The President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, who is a true Democrat, who knows the value of harmonization, of consensus, of agreement. He understands that, and that was why he insisted, as well as NEC and caucus, that we should go back and use harmonization to rebuild our party.
But I am excited because this is the first time in the history of All Progressive Congress from the time of ACN that the party is having a rancor-free Congress.
In Imo, Austin Oyedebulu was elected as its new state chairman, while Onyekachi Bezim emerged as the state secretary in Owerri, where the new executives emerged as consensus candidates. Imo State Governor Hope Uzodimma emphasized that unity and mutual understanding are essential to the party.
In Imo State, we are united. In Imo State, we love our state. We love ourselves. And we have resolved that never in the history of this state should we encourage any form of crisis, be it political or security in nature.
And in Anambra, Senator Emmanuel Anosike from Anambra North Senatorial Zone emerged as the consensus chairman, where delegates endorsed the list through voice affirmation during the exercise at the party secretariat in Awka. Chairman of the Local Harmonization Committee, Senator Uche Kwunife, says the consensus approach was adopted after adequate consultation across wards and local governments, just as the new state chairman gave his reaction on his emergence.
We call the stakeholders and the local government chairman to sit together to look at people who can perform the job. It's not just giving somebody assignment, but giving somebody who has the capacity, who has the competence, and who understands Anambra policies that can do that particular job. This is not the time to give somebody a job, and the person will be there just for Photoshop. No, we need people with capacity, we need people with competence, we need people with capability, we need people who can do the job and do it well.
For you to be a stakeholder, you press on your computer, your phone, you will see stakeholder, and you will see what you do to assess stakeholder. Every member of this party will, of course, if it means 10 kobo every month. So for you, because wherever your money is where your heart is. We need to run this APC powerfully and make sure that everything will go forward.
All members now pledge to run an inclusive administration in their states as they pursue the mandate of President Bola Tinubu come 2027.
In part two, after the break, trial of Benjamin Nnanyerugo, also known as Killer Boy, begins over the alleged 2023 murder of his girlfriend, Augusta Onwubagwe. Please join us again. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, broadcasting live from Lagos. A reminder of our main stories. 4 days after its rollout, President Bola Tinubu directs suspension of the cashless payment system at airports, cites hardship faced by travelers. Inspector General of Police Olatunji Disu inaugurates a committee to oversee the implementation of state policing, declares that there will be no sacred cow under his leadership. And civil society organizations and election observers call on the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to closely monitor the election funds used by political parties. And Iranian authorities postponed the funeral ceremony for the late Supreme Leader, Ayatollah al-Khamenei, amid ongoing heavy strikes by U.S. and Israeli forces. The governor of Edo State, Monday Okpeholo, has reiterated his pledge that the All Progressives Congress in the state will deliver 2.5 million votes for President Bola Tinubu come 2027. The governor made this promise at the reception organized for members of other political parties who defected to the APC. Governor Okpeholo, who attributed the surge in support for the APC to the administration's achievement, insists that Edo's development strides are directly linked to federal support.
Governor Monday Okpeholo, his deputy Dennis Idausa, APC leaders including former Governor Adam Soshomole, former deputy governors, APC State Chairman Jarrett Tenebe and members of his executive, as well as APC faithful, have converged on the Garrick Memorial Ground, Ekenwa Road in Benin City, the Edo State capital, for the reception of defectors into the party. The Edo State chairman of the APC attributes the increased attraction for the party to President Bola Tinubu and Governor Monday Okpeholo's commitment to development, debunking allegations concerning recent attacks on the Action Democratic Congress in the state.
Because of all these able-bodied men and women from all other political parties that are joining us today, I can make bold to repeat again that we, as members of State Working Committee in Edo State, the party in Edo State, have endorsed the President of Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, for a second term.
The defectors gave reasons for their decision.
I have been a member of PDP since 1999. I have never decamped. But when I met with His Excellency, Senator Monday Okpeholo, I saw the need to come and join him in the good work that he is doing for Edo State.
We are here today to formally join Mr. Governor in the Shine agenda and Mr. President in the Renew Hope agenda. God bless. From today, Edo must move forward. Raise your hands. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, can we work
Former Governor of Edo State, Senator Adam Soshomole, says there is still room for entrance from other parties into the EPC.
If the children of opposition leaders, of a former president of PDP platform, decide to leave their fathers and join APC, now you want a man there.
Governor Okpeholo believes President Tinubu's renewed hope agenda is taking the required transformation around the country.
If you have a good father, how do you pay your father? If your father is good, in the morning he will give you food. In the afternoon he will give you food. You want to pay school fees, he will give you money to go and pay school fees. In the evening he will give you food. How will you thank him? So, that is why we are standing here, very proud of our father, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
In all, it's a warm welcome for the new members of the APC. The charge is for all APC faithful to work towards the party's progress as well as that of Edo State and its people. Jessica Olugusere, Channels Television News.
Civil society organizations and election monitoring bodies are asking the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to move towards real-time campaign finance disclosure to ensure that political parties and candidates report expenditures and donations before elections. Speaking at a forum in Abuja, the chairman of the African Electoral Justice Network, Judge Bosi Mbaha, tasked the commission to also strengthen its monitoring and enforcement mechanisms, including collaborating with anti-graft agencies and financial institutions to track large political transactions.
Concerns over election integrity are once again taking center stage as stakeholders advocate transparency, accountability, and stronger democratic institutions ahead of the 2027 polls. From party primaries, election security to campaign financing, the credibility of the electoral process remains a critical issue for citizens and political actors, as well as the election umpire.
Everybody is a part of this electoral process. Everybody is part of it, which means from the time the timetable is out to when the notice of the election is given to the particular day we actually do the voting, counting and announcing the winner. Everyone who does one thing or the other is part of this process.
Stakeholders say campaign financing remains one of the most critical and controversial aspects, as this can significantly influence the credibility of the democratic process. They harp on the need for the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, and anti-graft agencies to employ strict monitoring and timely auditing of party accounts and stiff penalties for violations.
Electoral integrity strengthens economic confidence and regional stability. Regional peer learning and jurisprudential consistency support democratic consolidation. Always bear in mind that democracy does not collapse in a single dramatic moment.
Safeguarding the ballot requires more than just peaceful voting. The Executive Director, Kimpact Development Initiatives, emphasizes the need for accurate voter registers, secure voting materials, impartial electoral officials, and transparent result collation.
When you overshoot political limits as stipulated by the law, what it means is that the feed is not even for every other person. And what it means is that there is a penalty for that. INEC need to ensure that that penalty is for those offenders should be enforced.
As preparations continue, observers say sustained commitment from government, political parties, and voters will determine the integrity and credibility of the next electoral exercise.
That he spoke about, I think I could also see.
We head to the courts now, where trial has commenced in the murder case against Benjamin Nanyergo, also known as Killer Boy, who is charged with killing his girlfriend, Augusta Onuwabagbe, at the Lagos High Court in Igboshere area of Lagos Island. The first prosecution witness and uncle to the late Augusta, Mr. Reginald Okonye, took the witness stand to narrate how the family discovered her body at the boyfriend's house in the Ajah area of Lagos. Led in evidence by the Lagos State Director of Public Prosecution, Dr. Babajide Martins, the witness told the trial judge, Justice Ibironke Harrison, that for 2 to 3 days in July 2023, Augusta was responding to messages from her mother and her brother, but refused to pick up the phone when she was called. And this made them suspicious and went through her roommate at the Lead City University in Ibadan, who was able to trace her to the boyfriend's house where her lifeless body was discovered. The DPP then moved to tender in evidence a picture of the body and another picture of the house. With no objections from the defense counsel, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Marcel Oru, the court admitted the pictures in evidence as exhibits before Justice Harrison, adjourned till tomorrow, Thursday, March the 5th, for continuation of trial, where the late Augusta's mother is expected to take the witness stand to testify. And outside the courtroom, correctional officers from the Kirikiri Maximum Correctional Center aided the defendant to evade the watchful cameras of journalists as he departed the courtroom. The News at 10 continues now as we head to the nation's capital, Abuja, where Terry Kumi is standing by. Over to you, Terry.
Well, thank you very much, Anne. We're staying with the courts. Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Prince Lateef Fagbemi, has formally taken over the prosecution of his immediate predecessor, Abubakar Malami, in the terrorism and illegal firearms possession charges brought against him by the Department of State Services, DSS. During Wednesday's proceedings, Fagbemi, through the Director of Public Prosecution of the Federation, DPPF, Rotimi Oyedepo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, announced appearance in the matter. He told Justice Joyce Abdulmalik that the trial cannot proceed because Fagbemi has just taken over the prosecution. According to him, the case file has just been delivered to the AGF and he needed time to study it to be able to take a well-informed decision. Malami, represented by Adedayo Adedeji, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, expressed disgust over the delay in opening up the trial and asked the judge to strike out the charge at the next adjourned date should the federal government come up with any excuse. Still with the courts, Justice Obiora Egwatu of the Federal High Court, Abuja, has summoned the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Joash Amopiton, to appear before the court on March the 10th, 2026, for flouting a court order. Justice Egwatu made the order following the failure of the INEC chairman to obey a judgment order of the court delivered on March the 5th, 2025, which directed the electoral body to accept the outcome of an emergency national convention held on January 17th, 2025, that produced the Edozie Njoku-led executives of the National Rescue Movement. Counsel to the plaintiff drew the court's attention to the fact that, being a contempt proceeding, a party alleged to be in contempt, particularly a public officer of such high constitutional responsibility, ought to be present in court personally to answer to the authority of the court. Responding counsel to INEC told the court that the INEC chairman was away in Uyo on an official assignment. Away from the courts now, the governor of Borno State, Professor Babagana Zulum, says Boko Haram insurgents have destroyed over 500 schools and forced over 2 million children out of school during the peak of the insurgency. The governor, who discussed this at the commissioning of schools, roads, and a flyover bridge in Maiduguri, the state capital, revealed that the state is witnessing significant growth in school enrollment. According to him, the recent reconstruction of about 100 schools by his government has increased school enrollment by 70%. Governor Babagana Zulum is accompanied by the World Bank Country Director, Mr. Matthew Vergis, among other government officials, to commission schools in Maiduguri, the Borno state capital. The effort is to reduce the number of out-of-school children, as well as curtail the infrastructural deficit following the activities of the Boko Haram insurgents.
They are fully landscaped.
The Commissioner for Education gives a breakdown of the schools slated for commissioning.
The Command Secondary School comprises of 7 blocks of 24 classrooms, ICT facilities, other amenities such as hostel accommodation for 1,000 students. These facilities provide a conducive and modern learning environment aligned with His Excellency's vision of rebuilding Borno State through quality education and human capital development.
The World Bank Country Director, who was a special guest at the commissioning of the schools, pledges to continue supporting the government of Borno State to lessen the impact of insurgency.
In recent years, we have worked alongside the federal and state governments to support the return of children to classrooms in the Northeast. Children whose education was interrupted by conflict, by displacement, and by fear. We know the numbers. Borno alone accounted for more than half of the estimated damage to the education sector caused by the insurgency. We know what was lost. But we also know what is being rebuilt. And today is evidence of that rebuilding.
Governor Zulum explains that over 500 schools were destroyed during the peak of the insurgency, and the government has taken measures to tackle the issue of out-of-school children in the state.
These more than 30 classrooms, mega schools, are designed to provide equitable access to quality education, particularly for orphans, vulnerable children, and those affected by conflict. These initiatives aligns with our administration's commitment to unlocking the full potentials of every child through inclusive and accessible education. These interventions have reduced the number of out-of-school children by over 70%, bringing the figure to fewer than 800,000.
For Governor also commissioned a newly completed flyover bridge and roads in the state capital to ease vehicular movements. Still ahead on the news at 10, Senate supports stricter CBN supervision of fintechs, call for tougher action against Ponzi schemes. That's on Business News. Do stay with us.
Welcome back. You're still watching the news at 10 on Channels Television. The cultural counselor, China Cultural Center in Nigeria, Yang Jiaxing, has reiterated the Chinese government's commitment to the development of women in Nigeria and globally. Mr. Jiaxing explains that women are the bond of families, the cornerstone of any society, and they remain a vital force towards driving social development. He was speaking during the Happy Chinese New Year, the celebration of the Lantern Festival, and the China-Nigeria Women's Carnival in Abuja.
The Chinese Cultural Center in the nation's capital, Abuja, comes alive during the Lantern Festival and the China-Nigeria Women's Carnival.
At this moment, we gather.
The event is organized to celebrate the power of women and their contribution to nation building at the home front and globally.
In the field of women's exchanges, we are delighted to see women from both countries learning from and supporting each other. More and more Chinese women are taking roots in Nigeria and serving the local community. And more Nigerian women are growing and succeeding in China-Nigeria cooperation projects.
In his remarks, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Arts, Culture and Creative Economy, notes that the robust cooperation in culture and tourism through exhibitions, festivals and exchange programs have opened new doors of opportunity for both countries. He says the cooperation has given women from both sides a global stage to showcase their immense talents and contribute to sustainable economic growth.
Both Nigeria and China are civilizations built on bedrock values: family, community, and deep respect for elders. Today, we see these values not as museum pieces, but as living, breathing forces carried forward by our women.
The event is spiced up with musical renditions and performances by some women. It also provides an opportunity for stock-taking as representatives of UNESCO extol the role of China for its drive in addressing the plight of women.
A nation where women are empowered, girls are educated and equipped is a nation that thrives. And that's what UNESCO is trying to do here. We are supporting the Nigerian government.
Beyond the speeches, the event also provided a platform for interaction and cultural exchanges. Sarah Chimugu, Channels Television News.
MTN Nigeria Foundation says its target is to empower over 10,000 youths with various life-changing skills before the end of this year, as it has seen significant milestone in over 1 billion naira it has invested so far in digital business training. And that's according to the executive director of the foundation, Oduayo Soya, who's significantly boosting the micro, small and medium enterprises sector in Nigeria.
It's a joyful atmosphere as 5,980 cohorts of Phase 7 of the MTN ICT and Business Skills Training graduates. The team lead of the Presidential Tax Initiative enlightens them on how their businesses can scale up.
The quality of governance improves when you formalize. You need to start keeping some records, minutes. That discipline helps you to do better. It prepares you for growth. It makes you to be ready for investments, for scale, for expansion, and sustainability. Special tax exemptions also apply to certain startups, especially in the technological space.
The MTN Foundation and its partners speak on the motivation for the initiative.
For us at the foundation, is about developing the capacity of young Nigerians, moving them from a point where, they are learning to earning. And so we believe that by upskilling them with digital skills, we're building, a young workforce that the whole of the world will subscribe to.
I'm having trained 5,980 and identified about 600 of them to get equipment worth 300 million. I think it's a laudable thing. And so that's why we as Sweden are here to partner with them. We are also grateful that they've helped in this training. Now we have to take the beneficiaries of this training head on, help them to register their businesses with CAC, help them with all the guidance that they need, all the resources they need, financial and non-financial resources, all the opportunities that exist for them as business owners, and all the workforce support.
Some of the beneficiaries also speak.
Let's delve into the world of business now. Dominic Iwewu is ready to take us through those stories.
Thank you, Anne. And on business news, the Senate has pushed for a stronger regulatory framework that would position the Central Bank of Nigeria at the center of coordinating oversight for Nigeria's rapidly expanding fintech sector, while also calling for stricter measures to curb the spread of Ponzi schemes across the country. The call was made today by the chairman of the Senate Committee on Banking, Insurance and Other Financial Institutions, Senator Adetokunbo Abiru, representing Lagos East during a one-day public hearing at the National Assembly. Nigeria's seaports handled 129.3 million tons of cargo in 2025, up 24.8% from 2024, and that's according to the Nigeria Ports Authority. The surge reflects stronger activity across imports and exports, with key ports seeing more containers and bulk goods move through the terminals in the year under review. The NPA says the growth highlights Nigeria's rising role in regional and global trade and signals progress in economic diversification. Latest report from the central bank shows Nigeria's broad money supply M3 dropped to 123.36 trillion naira in January 2026, down from 124.4 trillion naira in December 2025. The decline reflects tighter liquidity in the banking system, with both broad and narrow money recording month-on-month contractions. Analysts say this may indicate cautious lending and monetary tightening at the start of the year. Despite the drop, M3 remains higher than January 2025 levels, showing that overall money growth over the past year has remained strong. The Nigeria Police Force, working with beverage manufacturers, has raided several illegal factories in Onitsha, Anambra State, arresting suspects accused of destroying returnable packaging materials. The items include reusable glass bottles and plastic crates belonging to beverage companies. In a statement, the Director General of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, Segun Ajayi Kadri, says the operation followed credible intelligence and formal petitions from affected companies. He explains that some operators were allegedly crushing reusable bottles and shredding plastic crates for resale as raw materials, causing businesses to lose billions of naira in investments. Over the years, beverage companies have been contending with a sustained challenge involving illegal disposal, theft, and unauthorized recycling of their returnable packaging materials. Mr. Ajayi Kadri describes the practice as criminal and a form of economic sabotage, warning that it disrupts supply chains, increases operational costs, and undermines environmental sustainability efforts. He says the association will continue to collaborate with security agencies to recover assets and ensure those responsible face the law. And the domestic stock market pulled back in the third trading day of March as investors resume profit-taking. Ladi Williams tells us more.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. Well, today we have the first pullback in the month of March, and that's a custom street since geopolitical tension in the Middle East, snapping the win streak so far. But volume and value of trades was lower, indicating investors might be, taking some gains off the table and not rushing out of the market. And we see for the losers chart there, Dangote Sugar leading the pack there with a full 10% drop, closing at 74.70 Naira. The company published its audited financial results for 2025. And we did see revenue rising 24.56% and a pre-tax loss of 72 billion naira, an improvement from the 270 billion naira loss in 2024. We also saw costs of sales that increased by about 11%. But the market reaction to the revenue rise, that was negative. Maybe a sell the news event. We also see Jai's Bank there, profit taking. Then for the gainers chart, we see Premier Paints, that's topping 10% rise. 12 Naira Technobank. We see the insurance companies there showing again on the gainers charts, just like yesterday. For the tier 1 lenders, for the figures list there, just 2 rising today. That's UBA and GTCO, while the rest, we see them firmly in the red.
Thank you, Ladi. Meanwhile, some other major global markets saw some relief in today's trading after the savage drop on Tuesday. Let's see their closing figures. And that's it on Business News. Back to Anne for the rest of the news at 10.
Thank you very much, Dominic. Outside our shores, Iranian authorities have postponed the funeral ceremony for the late Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, as U.S. and Israeli forces intensify strikes across the country. Here's Simon Pusey with more international news and around the world in 5 from our London studio.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says a U.S. submarine has sunk an Iranian warship in the Indian Ocean with a torpedo. Hegseth did not name the ship, but earlier the Sri Lankan Navy said around 140 people were missing after an Iranian ship, the Iris Dana, went down off the coast of Gaul. Meanwhile, Israel says it hit security headquarters across Tehran as U.S.-Israeli airstrikes continue. Videos filmed across Iran show large explosions in several cities as the conflict in the region reaches its 5th day. The US and Israel struck Iran on Saturday, killing Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Footage shared on social media from the last few days shows multiple explosions and destruction across the country.
Under the direct command of President Trump, the War Department unleashed this operation early Saturday morning, just 4 days ago, which means we need to remember 2 things. First, we are only 4 days into this. Metrics are shifting, dust is settling, and more forces are arriving. It's very early, and as President Trump has said, we will take all the time we need to make sure that we succeed.
Gas prices have spiked and global stock markets have tumbled as the conflict in the Middle East intensifies, with growing concerns over how long it will last. The UK gas price surged to its highest level for 3 years, following sharp gains on Monday, while Brent crude oil benchmark briefly rose above $85 a barrel for the first time since July 2024. Meanwhile, the share price of companies on US, European and Asian stock markets have plunged. Since Israel and the US launched strikes on Iran and Tehran retaliated, investors have been weighing the potential economic impact, including what it could mean for inflation. There are fears the conflict in a region that plays a key role in global energy supplies and shipping routes could have a similar impact to Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine 4 years ago. Meanwhile, the UK Prime Minister has been criticised over the UK's response to the US-Israeli strikes on Iran, saying the US has taken offensive action to defend British territory, but the UK hasn't. But Sir Keir Starmer says he wasn't prepared to join a war unless he was satisfied there was a lawful basis and a viable, thought-through plan.
Mr. Speaker, I spent the week protecting British lives and our national interest. Mr. Speaker, moments like this define a leader of the opposition. They can either step up, act in the national interest and show that they're fit to be Prime Minister, or they can expose their utter irrelevance.
An appeal court in Athens has upheld the 2020 convictions of 42 defendants linked to the neo-Nazi Golden Dawn Party. Founder Nikos Mihal Oliakos and 6 other leading Golden Dawn Party officials were found guilty of belonging to and running a criminal organisation under the guise of a political party. Another 24 defendants, who included 11 former MPs, were found guilty of joining the organisation. Further convictions were upheld for the 2013 murder of left-wing musician and activist Pavlos Fiasis and the savage beating of a group of Egyptian fishermen in Athens. The defendants face sentences of up to 15 years in prison, although only 2 of the 42 involved in the appeal were in court to hear the judges deliver their verdict.
We, the jury, found the defendant guilty.
The father of a teenage boy accused of killing 4 people in a shooting rampage at a high school in the US state of Georgia has been found guilty of murder, child cruelty and other charges. Colin Gray pleaded not guilty to all 29 charges against him, stemming from the 2024 attack that left 2 teachers and 2 students dead in Winder in Georgia. His prosecution marks the 3rd time that a US parent has been held criminally responsible for a mass shooting carried out by their child. And millions of people are celebrating Holi, the festival of colours in India and across the world. The Spring Festival, which celebrates the victory of good over evil, also marks the end of winter. People offer prayers, smear bright colours on family and friends, and eat traditional food and sweets to celebrate. They also gather on the streets and throw colours at each other. Holi is based on the Hindu legend of Holika, a female demon who tries to kill her nephew because he worships the Hindu god Vishnu. People light bonfires the evening before Holi in the belief this will destroy the bad so that the good can triumph. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Many thanks indeed, Simon, and welcome back here in Lagos. The Confederation of African Football, CAF, is expected to provide a definitive update within the next 48 hours regarding the hosting and start date of the 2026 Women's Cup of Nations. Morocco is scheduled to host the expanded 16-team tournament beginning March 17 this year. However, reports of logistical challenges and stadium availability have left participating nations in a state of uncertainty just days before the first whistle. High-level discussions we hear are ongoing to resolve the impasse as rumors circulate about a possible postponement to August or a change of venue. And the pressure for a resolution is immense as the tournament serves as the primary qualification path for the 2027 FIFA Women's World Cup in Brazil. Well, let's bring you up to speed with games played in the English Premier League. Just a moment ago, João Pedro's hat-trick breathed fresh life into Chelsea's Champions League charge with a dominant 4-1 victory over rivals Aston Villa at the Villa Park. League leaders Arsenal produced a defensive masterclass to beat Brighton 1-0 after taking the lead through Bukayo Saka's deflected shot in the 9th minute. Title-chasing Manchester City stumbled at home as they were held to a 2-2 draw by relegation, threatened Nottingham Forest to fall 7 points adrift of the Gunners. And Crescencio Somerville scored in the 65th minute to give West Ham United a 1-0 victory over Fulham at Craven Cottage. And the game between Newcastle United and Manchester United is currently ongoing and stands at 1-1 at this time. Well, fans of Galatasaray have been banned from the Champions League game against Liverpool later this month, following crowd disturbances during the game with Juventus. UEFA says supporters of the Turkish club threw objects and lit fireworks during the last 16 playoff tie against Juventus in Turin. UEFA also banned the Turkish club from selling tickets to supporters for the game and has fined the side £34,800. Galatasaray have announced they will appeal against the punishment. At the Women's Asian Cup, Japan kicked off their campaign with a 2-0 victory against the dogged Chinese Taipei in Beth. Bringing with a talented squad featuring 16 England-based players, Japan dominated a one-sided match played in fierce heat, attempting 30 shots and enjoying almost 90% of possession. But they were left frustrated by an inability to hit the targets other than Tanikawa's strike in the 61st minute and a header from substitute Kiko Seke in the 92nd minute.
Deep into stoppage time, perhaps the final attack here from Japan.
Well, we are counting down to the World Cup, just 99 days away, and Chief Executive Officer of the FIFA World Cup New York, New Jersey host committee, Alex Lasry, says they will make sure that everyone who comes to the tournament has a safe and secure experience. New York's Empire State Building was illuminated in the colors of the flags of host nation Mexico, Canada, and the U.S. And Tuesday's organizers marked some days into the kickoff of the event. Organizers were joined by the three mascots: Canada's Maple, the Moose; Mexico's Zayu, the Jaguar; and Clutch, the American bald eagle, for a ceremony at the Manhattan skyscraper. It's a global tournament to look forward to, the 2026 FIFA World Cup. That's sports. I'm Kelly. It's back to Anne.
Thank you, Kelly. And the main news again. 4 days after its rollout, President Bola Tinubu today directed the suspension of the cashless payment system at airports, citing the hardship faced by travelers. The Inspector General of Police, Olatunji Disu, has inaugurated a committee to oversee the implementation of state policing, declaring that there will be no sacred cows under his leadership. And that's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Nwawado. Have a restful night.